Hello and welcome. Today we are taking a look at the Magpul Zhukov to 1913 stock adapter by Haga Design. Now, full disclosure, I paid for this 100% out of my own pocket at full retail value, so take that for what it's worth. But this exists only because Magpul actually doesn't sell a 1913 stock in any configuration that I can find. So I had the Zhukov stock left over from my M90 and I wanted to do something with it, and it was cheaper to buy this adapter than it was to buy some of the other dedicated 1913 stocks. And I know there are opinions about the Zhukov, but if you're going to go full like tactical plastic, I think it matches the vibe, and I'm still not unconvinced that the Russians didn't copy the Magpul Zhukov for their AK-19 stocks. I still think that's probable. But regardless, the adapter is pretty cool. It's a single piece of aluminum, and it still maintains the detents so that the stock will stay folded when it's folded, but it's sort of a passive retention, so you can still grab it and deploy it without any issue. You don't have to unlock anything. One thing I will note is that it uses quite a few slots of Picatinny when you do install it. So the little tiny Picatinny adapters that I guess were really more meant for the SIG style stocks, in my opinion, this would look a little funny on there. I think it looks a lot better in like this configuration where it basically is the same width as the receiver. But it is a very comfortable situation. You can fold it over and get to the controls. It's a little bit tight, but you can still do it. And you could fire it like this, though I think it is more for a storage convenience thing. I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. And I think it's a good option for people who have a spare Zhukov stock sitting around that want to get more utility out of it. So now let's look at actually how to install it. This is a very simple procedure of how to do this. Basically, you just punch out the old pin that was holding the factory adapter. And this will work with either the Yugo or the AKM style because from the pin backwards, it's the same stock. You need to hold on to the springs and detents that will kind of try to fly out. They're on the bottom and the top of the hinge part of the stock. You'll need to reinstall those on the stock and then basically just line it up and use the screw hinge provided to reinstall the stock. So it's very simple. If you're on YouTube, you may or may not have a censored version of this. We'll have to see. But if you're elsewhere, congratulations, thank you. You're one of 5 that are actually gonna watch this somewhere else. But yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty cool adapter and I'm glad to have it. I like the versatility that it brings, and I like the fact that I didn't have to do much else to my ZPAP 85 to actually get a pretty solid stock option on here. And I think it looks pretty cool. I like seeing stuff like this on the market. I think that it sort of makes excuses for the manufacturers because I think Magpul should just offer something like this from the factory, but they don't, so the aftermarket steps in and at least this is available. The one thing I would like to see that I understand why it's not there, but it would be cool, is if it maintained the sling swivel adapter that's on the factory, so that the sling, if you did attach it to the stock, wouldn't only be on the back of the stock where it folds. I would prefer for there to be a sling mount that was attached somewhere in the back that wouldn't actually move when the stock was folded. That way it would be a bit more consistent and you could perhaps actually sling it with the stock folded. That's the singular complaint that I have, and I do understand that there's just really not enough room within this design without making it, you know, half an inch or more longer. And it already sticks out a little bit, so I do understand not wanting to make that even longer. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I like it, and I wanted to let you guys know that such a thing exists because I found it very useful and I'm glad to have picked it up. And lastly, I want to show you some examples of what this might look like on other firearms. So on their website, they have it on a PSA Jackal, which I think looks pretty good. And I have here a BRN 180 lower that it actually fits on really good. This is it flush to the bottom. I think that's probably the better place to put it in this case because of the charging handle, but still folds, and looks like just barely clear the ejection port on this like 22 build. But I think it looks pretty cool, and it's much more adaptable, obviously, and for that, I think it was worth it because I think it'll always be pretty easy to find something that I can put this on. Anyway, that's my sort of rambling thoughts about this adapter. I think it's pretty neat, and just wanted to let you guys have a look at it and see how it works and how it's installed, and some opinions about it. It is a little bit thick, I will say, but not much more than the stock itself and the receiver. So take that for what it's worth. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned something or that this was helpful, and I will see you next time.